In the following PowerPoint presentation, we will have a look at the in-depth analysis of teaching first and second languages. Teachers nowadays tend to make the mistake to think that teaching first and second languages is the same, but it's not. In the paper of IPEC of June 2009, a few of his learners did some research and then formed a few theories on how teachers can teach first and second languages more accurately. These theories help teachers to be more understandable towards their first and second language teachings, and how to assist their learners in this process of learning. During the presentation of this PowerPoint, we will be looking at three different aspects of the in-depth analysis of teaching first and second languages. These aspects are similarities between first and second languages, factors on comparing and contrasting first and second language acquisition, implications for language teachers, and then we will come to a conclusion on all of these aspects. In order to receive the longed-for results from the learners, the teachers should be perfectly educated on every single teaching aspect of these languages. Then only we will be able to see clear progress and results being made by the learners.
Similarities between first and second language equations. In 2.1, it's the development sequence. Children in the first language go through a period of listening to the language they are exposed to. During this period, the child tries to discover what language is. In the case of second language, they have the silent period, but it imitates the production and is not required for them. In general, however, many second language learners, especially in the classroom, are urged to speak. In 2.2, equation order, Light, Brown and Spada in 2006. Studies which have proposed the equation of question words what, where, who, why, when and how show a great similarity in the first language and in the second language. Thus far, it seems as if the first language equation and the second language equation follow similar routes. However, the morpheme studies have shown that not all first language learners follow the order of the equation predicted. In 2.3 is the logistics, universal and markedness, the most relevant aspects of both approaches that release to language 1 and the second language equation is that some of the features in the language are marked and some are unmarked. Then the findings show that unmarked features are learned earlier and easier than marked rules in both first language and second language, while unmarked forms require more time and effort by the learners. In 2.4 is the behavioristic view of language equations. Similar basing on the behavior approach is assumed that a person learning a second language starts off with the habits associated with the first language. These habits interfere with those needed for second language speech, and new habits of language are formed. Errors produced by second language learners are seen as first language habits, interfering with second language habits. This approach advised the immediate treatment of learners' errors.
In IPEC's paper of June 2009, comparing and contrasting first and second language acquisition, he notes 4 major factors that influence language learning. The first factor is called the acquisition or learning hypothesis. This states that there are 2 ways in which adults can acquire a second language, by subconscious, informal, and implicit learning. Then lastly, by conscious, explicit, and formal linguistic knowledge of the language. The second factor is called the critical period hypothesis. This refers to the idea that there is a biologically determined period in life which makes it easier to acquire a language. This idea was proposed by psychologist Eric Lenneberg. The peak of this language acquisition ability is between the ages of 2 and 12. There are also 3 aspects to consider under the critical period hypothesis, namely neural, psychomotor, and affective aspects. Neural aspects refer to lateralization, the separation of structure and function of the two brain hemispheres. Psychomotor aspects are the loss of the flexibility of speech muscles. Affective aspects refer to emotional states which can influence language learning. Thirdly, fossilization is the process in which non-target norms become fixed in interlanguage. Positive cognitive feedback leads to effective fossilization, whereas negative feedback avoids fossilization. The fourth and last factor is called social factors. This can be separated into two contexts, namely natural and educational. Natural refers to three different ways a second language can be learned, learning in majority, official, and international contexts. Educational can be separated into four formal ways to learn the target language: segregation, mother tongue maintenance, submersion, and the language classroom.
And then the implications for language teachers. It is of importance that teachers should help learners with their struggles, and students found that the process of learning a first language is more complicated because the learners have knowledge of their second language. Teachers can assist them, the learners, in their profession due to the differences and similarities between first and second language. Due to the facts just mentioned above, it enables teachers to create activities for their language and allows new syllabus to get drawn up by these teachers. Both languages can be used for the children's advantage by using a dual language system, and this to explain what something means in another language. This helps the learners to have a better idea of what is being said and articulated. Learners language learning has, thanks to teachers, great impact on learners, and they should direct efforts accordingly. Interactions must be used to improve language learning.
We're at the conclusion and we're at the end of this topic. So, obtaining a language is a difficult process. Whether it's a first or a second language or even a third language, it's still a difficult process. And teachers need to be more sensitive to understand the process and its aspects involved in using or teaching a language, a second, third, even fourth language if it is so. There may be some differences, but there also is some similarities to obtaining a first, second, or even third language. A teacher must understand that the importance in obtaining a first, second, or third language is interacting with one another. Therefore, the teaching should not be based on one claim or factor in obtaining a language. And their teachers must understand and have to understand, synthesize, analyze, and criticize before trying to implement any advice and suggestions made for teaching a language. Third, second, doesn't matter. They have to understand, synthesize, analyze, and criticize before trying to implement any advice and suggestions made for teaching. Now, a distinction has been made by researchers between obtaining and learning a language. So, there is a big difference between obtaining it and learning it. Obtaining is like when you acquire it. You understand it, you can speak it fluently, you can talk the language, write, read, uh, everything like that. Learning is you're still busy learning the language, and therefore you don't have all the knowledge or all the vocabulary of the language yet. Now, lastly, the teacher should combine their theoretical knowledge with their teaching situation. So, when they teach a language, they should um, combine every theory, every theoretical word, key, or use of the language so that the children can understand how to use the language more effectively, and that will help them to speak the language more fluently and more accurately according to their level. I hope you enjoy this day. Okay, bye.